which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thanks for meeting some needs to move this back this afternoon, so thanks everybody for coming. We had no sorry, they moved it way over here. Thanks everybody for making it for the afternoon meeting. Sorry, and sorry for not being louder earlier. So we had no comments from citizens, right? No comments from citizens, okay? Last chance? No? All right, why don't we go ahead then with the approval of the minutes from last month. This says July. I think that really means August. But the approval of the minutes from last month. Hopefully everyone had a chance to read them. And if you have... Second. All right, probably moved and seconded. Any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor, say aye. 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 Any opposed, say right. Okay. Really no chairman update, so I'm going to go right into the Finance Committee, which is, I heard you, Rod?
They got me again. I'm back. Good afternoon, everyone. It's lovely to be here on a 1 p.m. meeting today. We were briefed at our Finance Committee meeting on the August financial results along with the investment of funds summaries. We will talk about those a little bit later with Andy. We do have 2 action items that we need approval for from the board. And if there's any comments or questions about those, I'm going to let Andy and Adrian address them. But the first proposal is approval for the 2024 meeting schedule. And the schedule follows the pattern that we've established since early 2023. Committee meetings beginning at 8:30 a.m. on the 3rd Tuesday of the month. Ad hoc committee meetings starting at 9 a.m. on the 3rd Tuesday of the month. And full board meetings alternating between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. on the 4th Tuesday. The schedule is in your packet for review, and so we will need a motion to approve and adopt the 2024 SORTA board meeting schedule. Do I do that independently, or you want to do consent, or how do you want to? Okay. So I'll move to approve the 2024 SORTA meeting schedule.
Do we have a second?
Okay. Properly moved and seconded. Any comments, questions, concerns? Yeah, we'll send it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor? Or is this a roll call? Voice?
There isn't a roll call needed,
Right.
just a motion.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say right. Okay.
Our second item for consideration, and we had a robust discussion and presentation at our committee meeting last week regarding the 2024 healthcare plan. I was amazed at how low they can keep their increases. We did receive a detailed presentation from Vicki Barker. She reviewed the performance of our 2023 plan and proposed the 2024 program. There were a few high claim costs or high claims, which drove a little bit of the expenses going into 2024, which is coming in currently at a 6.2% increase year over year. Adrian, would you like to add anything to this?
No, it's a 6.2% budget, but based on projections, it would be a little over 9%.
Okay. Where do you know? I'm just curious because I meant to ask this last week where that stands industry wide.
So I don't have the specifics in terms of the industry standards, but we are running really pretty good as we compare ourselves to some of our peers. We've done some comparisons as we get ready for negotiations and other things like that. This is probably a higher year for us, but overall, it's been a great. In terms of increases on premiums, it's been great for us over the last 4 or 5 years.
I recall 4 years ago it was like 12% or something.
Yes.
I was like, whoa.
Yes.
Right, we got it under control a little bit. So, and it's always hard. Like, I think what I'm hearing is around 8% world, countrywide kind of thing.
Average, right.
But it's always hard because it depends where you start from. So I think I'm confident we're in pretty good shape.
I thought the proposal was great. I make a motion to approve the CEO, general manager, or the senior director of procurement to execute a 1-year contract with United Healthcare for services for the 2024 healthcare program.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. Any comments, questions? I know we did go over this in great detail.
Yes.
Resolution versus a motion, I think. Sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Mr. Hinton?
Sorry, yes.
Mr. Mr. Kissy?
Yes. Rod had to think about it.
Mr. Metz? Yes. Ms. Robinson? And Mr. Smith? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. That is all we have for Finance Committee.
Okay. We did this at the committees, but I would like to take a moment to talk about, the passing of Larry Pinkleton, who did a great job here and obviously would normally be involved in these reports. So I would like to take just a moment to say thank you to him and, pass our condolences along to his team, to leadership here, to his family, and maybe take a few moments of silence just to grace him. Yep. So he's already missed, and sorry about that.
Before we move on, I guess it's coming to finance, but going back to Larry, I'm gonna miss him saying unfavorable to budget. But if the government should have a shutdown, does it impact finance in any kind of way?
That's a good question. Sure.
Thank you. I think the question was if the federal government has a shutdown here at the beginning of next month, will that affect our process? We received some information again from FTA and our national association. FTA programs, federal transit programs, should not be affected by the shutdown because they're funded from the Highway Trust Fund. They're not subject to the shutdown that should happen on October 1st. So we should be able to continue receiving funds through FTA without any issues. What it means to applications and starting new grants and things like that still remains to be seen. But from a day-to-day perspective and day-to-day functioning operation, we shouldn't have any issues with respect to a federal shutdown.
The only extent I can see would be the riders. If they're not working, and there's no need for transportation.
Yeah.
So I thank you for asking that question.
Yep. Yeah, so ridership could be down, I guess, is the takeaway. Yeah.
Should be done.
I guess I'm praying that it's a short one, right? But or it doesn't happen at all. That'd be short, but yeah. No, for sure, it's complicated. Okay, any other questions? No? All right. Mr. Etheridge?
Well, Planning and Ops had a good meeting. We had a longer meeting than we had in the past couple months. We've been doing well, Rod, with shorter meetings, but there was a lot to discuss. We had a new CPS contract, which we reviewed, very interesting. It seems like we are really in a good spot with what we're doing with CPS, and that is just a great win for everybody. So we also spent a lot of time on ridership. Ridership is up, and that looks good. Metro Now ridership, totally trending in the right direction. We have more drivers, and that is good. We are experiencing some on-time performance declines, and we spent a lot of time discussing that. Some of that may be connected to the new drivers, new operators, other factors as well. Staff anticipates that will rebound, and so we will have to keep an eye on that. The missed trips were down, but we have a long way to come on that as well. So kind of a mix there. We'll keep an eye on all of that.
I know one of the comments that came up during the what the target for on time should be. Right, and that's probably worth having a broader discussion at some point to really revisit that, I think, right? So I think you said 85%, right, is a target, and I think there's discussion that 70% is considered good. Part of that is so that if you have, right, if everything's 100% on time, you have to have so much service and so much leeway in your schedules that, you're always, you just have more than you need and it costs too much. So the question of what the real target should be, I think it's worthwhile having some broader discussion just to educate all of us at a future time.
I think that would be great to look at many different elements of performance for both fixed and para. Have a discussion around that, make sure the board understands it, and see if there's any things that we think need to be addressed or reconsidered. So, great. We do have 2 items on the consent agenda, and I will go right into those. First is a modification for paratransit bus purchases. Yeah, that's not item 912022. So we already have 14 that we purchased. Turns out we do have to raise the not to exceed a little bit for those to cover wrap and tech installation. But the majority of all of this is adding 3 more vehicles, and then space to get 4 more on top of that. The good thing about all of that is that it's grant funded, so getting additional vehicles in that same procurement in response to grants that we have or anticipate getting. Is that right, Daryl? Got that? Okay. And then for the second item, 112-2023, that is access facility and fuel station modifications. So this is a larger one, 3.1 million. So we're gonna have 2 fuel stations. Right now we just have diesel. We're gonna have gasoline and diesel. We're gonna have covered parking for Metro Now vehicles, improved flow, which will improve both that fueling process, pull out, pull in, and fully utilize the space we have at the access facility. So that is Russ Construction that's awarded that, but there's actually, I think, 315,000 in minority spend as well on top of that. So that's a good addition to the minority spend.
Well, before you move on, I'd just like, Andy, would you verify that the paratransit vehicles, the Tesco vehicles are partially grant funded?
Yes, they are. Yes, that is correct. It is partially a state fund, state grant fund, the OTP funds that were made available that allowed us to increase the first 3, and we're looking for grant funds for the next 4, as you mentioned.
Thank you.
Correct. We'd probably just correct, the language here sort of implies that it's like local capital.
On this spreadsheet,
Yeah.
we'll update that. Thank you.
So those consent agenda items, I would move passage.
All right, properly moved and seconded. Any questions, comments, concerns? This is good stuff, and get close to $5 million university spend is awesome, right? So this is roll call, right?
Ms. Clark? Yes. Mr. Etheridge?
Yes.
Mr. Hinton? Yes. Mr. Cassie?
Yes.
Mr. Metz?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson? Yes. And Mr. Smith? Yes. Thank you.
Do you have a question? Go ahead.
Comment that may come out of place committee, that's why I want to raise it. With the Supreme Court striking down affirmative action and the discussion around minority inclusion policies and so forth, this board, this organization has really made some strides in promoting diversity spending. I would like for the committee to come up with a statement that this board can adopt, so no matter what changes on the board, whatever happens, changes within the organization, that we do have a belief, a policy in place that says we support diversity and inclusion. So I don't know where that goes, but that's where a lot of the money is being spent.
Yeah.
in planning and operations and procurement.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think it's fine.
Kim, you probably would have to work with us on that.
I thought we already had something. That's fine.
I don't think we have a formal position since the striking down.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what is our definition of diversity?
Well, in this case, the spend it's minority or women owned, right? Disadvantaged businesses, really what it.
The board has adopted a formal DBE policy. And that policy was presented to the Planning and Ops Committee. So we can bring that back to the committee again, Ms. Robinson, to make sure that it fits, your desire there. Because we have a statement about our intent, and not only that, but our goals and how we define minority and small business. So we'll bring that back to the committee for discussion.
Because the environment has changed.
Understood. Well, we'll see. Yep, good. Thanks. Yeah.
And one caveat based on this environment that we created, many of the majority companies were subcontracting with minority companies to keep that inclusion going.
Yeah.
With the change that's happening out there, that may go away.
Yep. I think it's good to look at it in this new context. It's perfect. Yep. So we'll put that into next month.
One reason I ask because the economic inclusion department has been asked also to redefine what diversity means.
Okay.
And so they're going to bring that before council. I think it has to be done before October 1st.
Okay. Be interesting to see, right?
See, I was just
How
wondering
close we are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's been kind of a wide net, but I think let's look at it and make sure we. Good. Thank you.
So that was all from planning and ops. And
Okay.
I look forward to that discussion. Gwen and Casey brought up next committee meeting.
Yep. Awesome.
Great, thank you. Shall I just go right in?
It says your
Infrastructure?
name's on the next one as well.
Okay. Sarah ran an
Pastor's excited about it.
amazing meeting, and I've been asked to fill in, which I could never do, for infrastructure, bike, and row. We had 2 items there. One rather large is approval of a revised Western Hills Viaduct contract. In short, it's taking the funds that we are going to pay out over 25 years and instead changing it to 15 years. The amount does not change overall. It is $205 million, but it's the pace of it going out of the infrastructure fund. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, it also makes it primary. So those are the first funds to go out every year for the remainder number of years.
Yeah, so it kind of already was priority because it's already committed to before each year's cycle. But yeah, it means all the 25% here will be pledged against that project each year. If we don't need all 25%, the rest of the money can be spent. But if it consumed the entire 25%, that's what would.
Well, I think the terms of our investment was, because while that money is not being used, it's invested. I would assume.
Right, we get the investment. So
Okay.
we don't give them the money up front.
Okay.
It's just faster, if that makes sense. And it does make the project a little cheaper overall because less money will be spent on interest over the years, right? So by spending it over 15 versus 25. And it does, we're making an exception here that funds can be used for financing costs, right? So these dollars will be more directly to pay back funds that the TID will borrow to pay for the Western Hills Viaduct because obviously they want it done faster than 15 years. So we've made an exception here, pretty narrow. And I guess it could probably come up on other multi-year projects, but not on shorter ones. Yep.
I do not think we put these on consent, so I would move number 223-47.
Okay. Properly moved and second. And it's again, we're not approving dollars we haven't already approved, but it's changed a little bit. And I thought it was important to bring it out in front of the board to make sure we're comfortable. Okay.
Ms. Clark? Mr. Etheridge?
Yes.
Mr. Hinton? Mr. Cassie?
Yes.
Mr. Metz?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson, and Mr. Smith. Thank you.
The next item is 2023-48. So we approved these last month, and then they went out to the integrating committee, and now they're back to us to approve the contracts for the third round, right? Third round? And it's 27.8 million, and is going all over Hamilton County and all kinds of localities for the projects that we reviewed last month. I would move the approval of 2023-48.
All right, properly moved and seconded. Any questions? Again, these are the projects that we already approved. Go to the bounce back and forth between the integrated committee, so they approved them too, and now we can approve actually signing the contracts to do what we approved
I'm just curious.
a month ago.
Remind me of how the 38 compares to last year's approval.
The 38.
Last year was,
Okay, yep.
how many proposals did we get last year versus this year?
Last year we got 42 proposals.
42?
40.
Okay.
Right.
I was
It's
wondering
right
if
here
we-
in the it's right here in the note. 40. Sorry.
Do I see it somewhere?
But sorry, right before the 38, it says 40. That I'm joking. I can't help myself. So the but we're continuing to get lots of interest, right? And it's the first year we had enough money for every project. Last year I think there was 2 that didn't get approved, although every community that asked for money got money. This year there was a few more that didn't quite make it. So lots of interest in it, but we still have gotten into how many in total over the 3 years, 30 some of the communities in the Hamilton County, something like that. Yeah. So, Gwen, you and I remember having a discussion about the concern that it wasn't going to reach throughout the county. It really, really has, which is great.
What percentage of those to date are completed and in process?
That's a great question.
Answer one question with 100% certainty. The other question, we have one project that's fully completed from round one, and then we have about maybe 14, 15 projects total that have been going. We have total reimbursement so far is about close to 6 million. Almost all of them from round one. One project from round two. But that's what we have right now.
Yeah, we've talked about it. It's interesting that the requests for repayment seem to be coming in slow, and
Very slow.
we've really pushed with the organization to make sure that we're not the bottleneck there. We're quite confident that we're not. But if the first year we approved 22 million outside of the Western Hills Viaduct, something like that.
Correct.
So of that 22, only 6 has been drawn against, or some number, right?
Is there additional follow-up communication with those municipalities to see, some of them may run out. I think there's probably a time frame, I'm sure, to complete it with us to get their dollars. But, with them having to put forth some of the dollars themselves, people's, municipalities' budgets change, and thereby they may not even follow through with the project for whatever.
Yeah, as I said, from round one, don't quote me on that number, but I think about 12 to 14 projects are already, on the works. We are in constant communication with these different municipalities because they have to submit quarterly reports, annual reports, and progress reports as well. It's been a challenge for the first round. It's been a challenge getting everybody up to speed. But what we did for round 3, we made some changes to the guidelines to penalize those who are not starting the projects on time and not basically updating us on time as required by the guidelines. And that kind of also hurt a few in this round because of that. We're just trying to make it as fair as possible for everybody.
Right, and so with that penalization, should also make some room perhaps for other municipalities that maybe haven't received or haven't applied?
Correct.
Okay, good.
Correct. Yeah. So it's a two-part thing. One is if they have been awarded in round 1 or 2, but they weren't performing, they're going to get penalized. And then municipalities who have never applied or never received money, they'll get extra points. Yeah.
Like extra
Yeah, what they have to shovels in the ground have to be within. Is it?
They have to break ground within 1 year.
Right. So there's projects from round one that haven't been started.
They got penalized, and it's a scale. Like, yeah.
I hope we continue to run what I call the classes. As we did in the beginning.
Yeah.
Running classes, because some of them start their bidding process after they are awarded. And should be starting them as if it's going to happen. And that could be part of the problem. So I think we need to continue with our classes.
Yeah.
I
And we're
think-
right in the middle of all the COVID craziness. Like lots of things happen, right?
I understand that, but I also understand a smaller community mindset.
Yeah.
And that is waiting for the money to come.
Sure. But we do the classes each year still, right?
Yeah, I mean, every year we do have this big session with everybody just to educate them on the process, the expectations, and the requirements as
On our
well.
process and expectations.
Yeah.
What we need to do is help them understand their need to have a process and expectation to meet ours. And that's where I think some of the miscommunication is happening, because, in listening to some of the conversations, they think they have to wait till they get that money. They're not as proficient.
Yeah.
in, going out there and not knowing how to do, their procurement departments are not as sophisticated.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, where our role starts and stops is an interesting one, right? Because we're not there to manage the project for them, right? So, but I think maybe we can point them to some resources. It's worth considering and thinking about how to help them so that they don't.
Help them, yeah.
It's also worth thinking about who are the groups that support them. So whether it's like the First Suburbs Association
Right, that's what I was
or
saying,
the
yeah.
Municipal League, if we could encourage them to do some
Right.
best in class for how to do this that we could support, I think that would make it a
Right,
little
yeah,
bit.
point them to folks who do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a good concept. And I think it's a good question because every month I keep saying, how do we have all this money? Nobody wants it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's moving.
My final question,
Yeah.
and then I will leave this alone. Is this indefinite? Are we offering these grants indefinitely, or do we have a time frame? We're gonna do this every
As long as we have a sales tax, as long as we have a
remember the
sales tax.
25-year sales tax, right?
Right,
So
so we
every
are
year of
going
that
to do it
25 years,
every 25
well,
years, that's
25% of the sales tax is for this.
and so we'll just do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would suggest that we would probably ask voters to extend that in 25. Some other body that looks like this, but is not any of us. And the infrastructure will be successful.
Gwen will still be on. Yeah.
I don't think she'll be sitting there. You're right. She's here. She's not sitting there.
I'm gonna wear my.
All right, you're released. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Etheridge,
Yes.
Mr. Hinton, Mr. Cassie,
Yes.
Mr. Metz,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson,
Yes.
and Mr. Smith.
Sorry, Rod got confused what we were voting on, so he had to remind me.
Rod, I think you are underneath one of our buses.
Thank you for your service, Rod. is what I'm
This
saying.
is afternoon meeting.
All right.
Yeah.
I think we need to reconsider that schedule because this is the most
Yeah,
fun
more
meeting
fun,
I've
right?
had.
Do not go back to morning.
5 o'clock somewhere. Okay. Andy.
Good. Speaking of fun, we'll be talking about the August 2023 financial report. If we go to the next slide, please. One more. Okay, as you've seen in your packet, our operating revenues and fair revenues for the month are trending very well. And we had a strong ridership month and equally a strong revenue month. You can see in this chart here, going back to June, we had some true-up numbers that we had to work through with CPS. So you saw a negative student number there. That was worked through the system at the end of the school year. We didn't have any school revenue in July. And then you can see in August, we're starting to pick back up with the school revenue of $115,000. If you turn to the next slide, with respect to expenses, you can see our expense profile is very consistent with what we've seen over the last quarter. It was discussed in committee that August shows slightly higher expense compared to the average of the last 3 months. It's largely because August is a month with no holidays and a large number of weekdays, which means apples to apples, we run more revenue service in August than we do in June and July. So we're just slightly up over those averages, but within budget. The next slide, this is the summary of the key drivers. Again, as we talked about in committee, total revenue was favorable to budget by $1.2 million. Total expenses were also favorable to budget by about $550,000. Our surplus came in net $1.8 million favorable to budget. And as we mentioned before, ridership was 1.1 million, which was also favorable to budget. As we look into some of the details, we already talked about operating revenue being up slightly 6.3% over the budgeted amount. Non-transportation revenue continues to come in very strong. That is a direct result of our investment portfolio. And again, consistent with what we've seen over the last few months. County sales tax, this is an issue of great interest to us, came in at $10.1 million, which was favorable to budget by about $405,000. If you recall, over this calendar year, we've had some months that have been under the UC forecast and some months that have been over the UC forecast. August was a strong month, being 4.2% over the UC forecast, and we remain positive of that forecast year to date. Federal grants came in on budget. On the expense side, as we mentioned, we were right on plan, just 0.5% favorable to budget there. Fuel and lubricants were slightly ahead of budget by 7.8%. And parts and supplies, as you've seen every month this year, almost every month this year, we've been slightly ahead of budget. The supply chain is still working itself out, and parts and supplies continue to be more expensive than budgeted. Again, all other is favorable to budget, and that is largely due to the timing of consultant work and also the capitalization of consultant work associated with our bus rapid transit program. Happy to answer any questions about the August financial statement.
How do you account for, I'm looking for the free rides, how are they, when we do the free rides, how do they, what line item or where do you put them in the budget?
So that would be, any free ride would be a lack of revenue in our passenger revenue bucket, if you will. So that first slide with the 3 blue bars represents our passenger revenue. So any free rides would be revenue that doesn't show up in that category, right?
You wouldn't count it as a loss.
We wouldn't count it as a loss. It's just less passenger revenue.
Right.
Yep, great question.
Do we track how many free rides provided? Maybe that's where she's at.
We track ridership on free ride days. I don't believe there were any free ride days system-wide in August. There was a small promotion with the Cincinnati Reds if folks had their ticket on certain weekends. I'm looking to see if there was any other. I don't believe we had a free ride day the month of August.
Because I always think it's interesting, right? We know that if we get somebody to ride a couple times, they're more likely to ride going forward. So there's a little bit of investment and annuity, but it'd be interesting to track those.
Yeah.
Because we talked about before, when you get a free ride, you have a uptick a month later, 2 months later. So
Correct.
And we know we just want more Taylor Swift concerts because that drives 20% increase. Exactly.
I don't like the Chelsea.
Put that in the minutes, please.
Swelsey.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's what we did see. We saw a 16% increase in ridership on the 2 days of those concerts.
Any other questions?
My question's not that. It's okay. So we are seeing some national increases in COVID hospitalizations. My question, I'm not very familiar with UC's predictors, nor do I check them or even know how, quite honestly, as it relates to what we do. But I'm wondering if we've got some strategies in place that that whatever those numbers hit, or do we have a threshold or something that we operate by where that, makes us to adjust our numbers or our forecast or possibly account for or move for those types of things?
It's a great question.
Knowing that the dollars that we have seen are so post, we would not see them up front most likely.
Correct. Yeah, so a couple points that are worth covering there. One is what you see in revenue here is always 3 months in arrears, right? So when the county sales tax actually happens, we don't show that over or under until 3 months later in our budget. So we will know if there is a rough month with respect to the economy, or you mentioned hospitalizations or recession. We'll have a couple months to prepare for that before it hits our books, because we're 3 months behind the actual month of experience of county sales tax. The second piece is we commission UC economic researchers to do a 12-month study prediction of the sales tax. That gets updated every year. So they're currently in the process of updating that sales tax projection for 24. And in that analysis, they'll use all the current information that we have now. So it'll be the most up-to-date projection when we ask you to look at a budget for 2024.
Thank you.
Yep.
I thought we were going to. It's a worthwhile question. As COVID ticks up, right? Are we experiencing anything either with our operators or any other things we would have to change any kind of our safety protocols back to? I was looking at you. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So, certainly, we're monitoring that, and there has been an uptick. And Adrian and I will be in communication on that. If it looks like we need to do anything as far as going back to masks, so forth.
Okay. I know it's well below the peaks of a few years ago, but certainly the percentage increase is kind of scary, right?
Yeah, some restaurants are having some serious problems with call-offs, and sickness. It affected my household when he was out for 5 days. So it's definitely coming.
And we
I
do
would hope that we also include protocols for the board.
And we do work really closely, and we follow the CDC guidelines as it relates to how we react or respond with our employees. And so we've been following that all along, even post-COVID, to make sure, and from a masking standpoint and a contact tracing standpoint, all those types of things that we were required to do, how long you're required to quarantine, if you're exposed versus if you're positive. So we follow closely with the CDC guidelines, and we continue to make sure our employees are aware of how they should respond accordingly if they are positive COVID and or exposed.
Thank you. Yeah, we're so financially stable and sturdy. It would be a little nerving to think that perhaps some of those,
Yeah, for sure.
as hard as we work for those dollars, that they
Yeah.
have to go.
Well, and
if
more,
we're
and,
unprepared.
yeah, as worried about the safety and health of the community too, which is tricky.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Metro on the move.
Speaking of free rides,
Sing.
last Friday we had our third annual Car Free Cincy Day. And I'm happy to report on that Friday we saw a 15% increase in ridership versus the previous two Fridays. I really want to say how much I appreciate the comments from the board about Larry Pinkleton. He was really, really important to this organization. He started here in May of last year, but the impact that he's left on this organization will last a lifetime. Speaking of Larry, we were incredibly honored to be recognized by the Ohio Auditor of the State with a distinction for excellence in reporting from the state auditor. This recognition is bestowed upon less than 5% of all Ohio entities, and it's a tribute to the work that Larry did. We've been talking about shelters over the course of the last year or so. We're also happy to report that we cut the ribbon on 3 new shelters in the West End, and those shelters are for those communities. They include boxing legend Ezzard Charles, educator, trailblazer Jeannie Porter, and activist Robert O'Neill and his daughter, and the artwork on those shelters. We did this in partnership with the City of Cincinnati, Department of Community and Economics and Development, Transportation, Seven Hills Neighborhood Housing, a neighborhood business district, and the Improvement Program Grant, which funded the design of the bus shelter and the neighborhood markers. Also, there were several awards that staff received last month. And right now, I just want to point out and honor our COO, John Ravazio, who has been selected as a finalist in the COO category in the business career. Congratulations, John.
Daryl, can you read the first sentence of that section too?
No, that's all we're going to talk about today.
All right. Well, we'll read a round of applause for Daryl too.
And that concludes my report, unless you all have any questions.
I just want to say that Larry will be missed and is missed already, and I hope his family recognizes how much we cared about him. And it was also heartfelt for me to see the number of board members that were there. You know, that says a lot about how much he impacted us as a business.
Absolutely. Yeah. Big loss. Big loss.
Big loss.
Any other new business? Okay. Pete, I'm going to get you for tea or 2 o'clock. You'll be fine. All right. All right. Then we adjourn.